The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is Mike from Where's Obama's Birth Certificate.com. Once again, Mike from Where's Obama's Birth Certificate.com. Welcome to my show. I have a special guest on this afternoon. I have Linda Jordan. Linda Jordan, yes, if you mention the name E-Verify, it goes along with Linda Jordan. She's got quite a story to tell, and I have her on hold. I want to give a little updated information about Mike Zulu. He is in Washington and will be there the next couple of days, and he is really stirring the pot, and I just want to say, go, Mike, go. And I also have Carl Gallup scheduled to call in about 15 minutes after the hour here. And with that, we are going to introduce our guest for today, and that would be Linda Jordan. Linda, are you here?
Yes, I am, Mike. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you for coming on board. Why don't you give a little introduction?
Well, Mike, I'm just a citizen. Very concerned about what's happening to our country, and in particular the person who's in the White House. I really don't know who he is, what his name is, where he came from, what his plans are, although I can see they're not for good. So I became more and more interested about Barack Obama in 2008, 2009, when I saw immediately that he was lying about his relationship with unrepentant terrorist Bill Ayers. And I was kind of shocked. I just thought, this guy's a liar. He's a liar because he said the only reason he knew Bill Ayers was because their children attended the same schools together, and that he knew him like any father would know another father whose kids go to the same school, except Ayers' children are 23 years older than Obama's. And it was a shock enough to me that he would lie like that, but that the media would allow that lie to just go unchallenged was even scarier. So that told me an awful lot about, who this man was and who's involved in a cover-up, and just felt very kind of fascist, communist, something evil's coming down the pike. So I started researching him, and it wasn't until about 2011, I think it was August, I decided enough is enough. I'd written a lot of people and said, come on, there's something wrong with this man. He's not who he says he is. He's lying. There's a private investigator who in Ohio, Susan Daniels, who's discovered he's using a phony or stolen Social Security number. There's problems with his birth certificate. You need to investigate this man. And I filed several formal complaints. I called people. I wrote letters to attorney generals and Social Security Administration and got nothing. So, I admire Susan Daniels very much for the work that she did and what she published, what she was willing to do for her country. So I used her as inspiration, and I took her work and kind of continued it and thought long and hard about how can I get a government agency to confirm that the Social Security number is phony. And in Washington State here, we have a program called E-Verify, and it's basically for employers who are required by law to confirm if their employees are eligible to work in the United States. And they do this primarily by checking their Social Security number. So I decided I was one of Barack Obama's employers, and I registered with E-Verify on August 17th, 2011, and I ran his Social Security number through their system, and it came back flagged for fraud. And how many Social Security, 45 million Social Security numbers, I think, are on the Numident file, and only 46,000 are flagged for fraud. So that's a big-time fraud.
Does that mean it doesn't exist, or has it been put in some kind of special file?
Well, it means, from what I've been my research has shown, is that it's a special indicator code only given out by the Inspector General, and in this case, it's for fraud, that the number is directly tied with, usage that's fraudulent. Now, whether it's because the Social Security number belongs to a dead person or because a Social Security number is totally fabricated and, you know, they've tied it to fraud incidents, but it's been flagged for fraud. I would bet anything that if the Social Security Administration ever admitted that they looked into it, they would not be able to prove otherwise. They would have to admit that, yes, it's been flagged for fraud.
Wow. It's almost like they know when they put it in a special file. If the number didn't exist, what kind of return would you get on the system?
You know, there were seven special indicator codes that the Inspector General could assign. Here, I'm getting my notebook out here, and I'm not sure what number it would be for a number that didn't exist. But it took me, I mean, if you saw my notebook I'm looking at now, it's about 5 inches thick. That's how much research it took for me to arrive at the correct interpretation, what I believe is the correct interpretation of what I got back from E-Verify. Of course, if I could have just asked, like any employer should have been able to ask, I wouldn't have had to go through all of this to figure it out. But I did, and I have it all documented, and I've shared it with people that are in positions of responsibility to do something about it, and they're not doing anything about it. So anyway, it was very, very interesting, and I never, you know, there were a lot of cries from progressives and liberal wackos that I should be thrown in jail for accessing the E-Verify system. You know, that I'd committed a federal crime and whatever, and I took that into consideration before I ran the check and was willing to take the risk for, I know I've never considered myself brave, but for my country, I just thought I've got to do this. Somebody's got to do something, my God. And I don't know if I told you this, but the day that the story broke on the E-Verify results, I was down at the Safeway grocery shopping, and I was kind of scared about what might happen to me. And I bought some groceries, and I get back my change. And, you know, the day I was down there, it was September 11th, 2011. And so I was kind of in a somber mood for that, too. And I get back my change, and the cashier goes, "Here's your change. You know, Mrs. Jordan, you got back 9/11." And she goes, "Wow, you just got back 9/11 on 9/11. And I was kind of stunned, and I said, "Yeah, I took that as a straight from God encouragement that I did the right thing and just to stand strong and take whatever comes my way." So I was prepared, and I was willing to legally argue that I had the right and the obligation to discern whether or not he's eligible to work in this country.
9/11 on 9/11, and it probably took you 9 minutes and 11 seconds to drive home.
Well, a little closer than that.
You mentioned why you started this. An average, ordinary citizen looked at it back in 2008. That's when I started my website. You're familiar with it. Where's Obama's birth certificate?
Yes, I am. I have your stamps, and I'm not afraid to use them. So,
you know, I just want to jump there really quick. What you just said, you getting all kinds of ridicule from whack jobs, left wing, right wing, whatever it may be. I created the stamp because back in 2008, we saw all of this. We saw Bill Ayers. We saw all of the connections that were being looked for, bypassed, overlooked by the mainstream media. But our focus was on the original COLB, Certificate of Live Birth.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
And wasn't producing enough documents. And my wife and I said, well, how come the media isn't picking this up? This should be the biggest story. Then everything else started coming into play with a Bill Ayers and a shady background, 14 different names. I lived in Hawaii. He went to Pakistan. He was here. There was speculation where he was born, who his father may be. We had to get the message out. We created the stamp to stamp all kinds of things, whatever it may be, letters, currency, to get the message out. And it works, and it has worked, and it's been a little bit of a resurgence in the stamp itself, because I think people are getting scared. And as time went on, it has this ups and downs, but ordinary, average citizens like me and you and everybody else are trying to get to the truth, and that's all we want is the truth. Good president, bad president, I don't care what his name is, what his party affiliation is, what his color is, it doesn't matter. A lie is a lie, and he's a phony and a fake. Social Security number, we all know that the one he is shown is not right. You looked at it, Susan Daniels looked at it, we've had other people look at it. Why isn't Congress looking at it? Why aren't there more red flags being raised?
Right.
The forged birth certificate issue is being looked at by Mike Zulu. I mean, it's already been proven to be phony, forged, fake. We don't know where he's coming from. We make no claims, and neither does Zulu or anybody else. We're just saying that it's not right. And then there's also the eligibility issue, whether he's constitutionally eligible to be president of the United States because of where his father is. His purported father was born. He was a British national at the time. We just have too many things that go on and on and on and on. And it's scary how it's being looked over every single day.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, he's a liar, just a bald-faced liar, and he's using forged documents to try and prove who he is, and no one else in this country could get away with that, or at least not, when it's been exposed, to continue to get away with it. He couldn't use that ID to get in a cheap bar on a Saturday night, not even if he was a pretty girl. It's that bad. It's a rotten
Linda,
forgery.
Do you want to take a caller? I just have a caller calling in right now.
Okay.
Because we have about 17 minutes to go. I'm going to go right to the caller, and I have an idea who the caller may be. Caller, you're on the air with Linda Jordan. Is this Mona?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Mona.
Hi. How are you?
Good. Doing good.
I wanted to say thank you so much for being such a true patriot and putting it out there. That's really a scary thing to do.
Well, you're welcome. It was scary. I'm glad I did it though, and lots of people are doing similar kinds of things, taking that step, and they're willing to be ridiculed, mocked, whatever, or even hauled off to jail. But it just reminds me, looking at the people in Egypt. I mean, the courage that we refuse to show here in America makes me so sad. We can't even get out there and physically put our face and our name and our bodies out there. It's depressing, but there are people, and I just pray that the ship is slowly turning, and that we're finally getting, motivating enough people to be courageous and to actually do their jobs and go after this crime.
I agree. I cannot believe how everybody is ignoring it, whether it be denial or just not wanting to give up their comfortable life. How can they in their mind justify doing that? I mean, the implications of what that means, that it's a fraudulent birth certificate, don't they think past that?
You're right. What does that mean that someone would use something like that? Now, I mean, like Mike says, we have no idea who the guy's dad is. I don't know who his mom is, for that matter. I don't know who he is. I don't know what his name is. I don't know where he's born. I just know he's a liar and he's using fake ID. That's about it.
And he definitely has an agenda. I mean,
yeah, definitely not one that's good for America, and could be far, far worse than that, or whoever's using him. I don't know. But in my mind, any American should be able to get their head around fake ID. That's it. It's fake ID. People who use fake ID are people who are up to no good. And they're hiding something.
Not only that, if we use fake ID in our lives, how far do you think we would get? Would we be able to get a driver's license? Or
the only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.